Welcome back. I'm your host, my son, and this is The Shit Show. And as promised, I'll be coming through a weekly commentary about this administration. And this week has not failed to disappoint. Let's talk about the State of the Union. Now listen, not only did Donald Trump lie, I can't even tell you how many times, but matter of fact, since I can't tell you, I'll let Rachel tell you.
The president did repeatedly seem to be ad-libbing when he was remarking on the expected impact of the economic decisions he's already made 6 weeks in, saying that the American people would have to bear with him, that there would be a little disturbance, that there would be an adjustment period. And again, he said a little disturbance, essentially suggesting that the roiling that we saw in the markets is something that he knows he caused, but he hopes people will not mind. For the record, the worst inflation in this country was in 1980. For the record, the economy that he was left by President Biden was not a catastrophe. It was literally the best economy in the world and was described by The Economist magazine as the envy of the world. That was the economy that was left to Donald Trump by Joe Biden. For the record, Social Security is not paying benefits in large numbers to 300-year-old people or 250-year-old people or 200-year-old people or 150-year-old people. In fact, the idea of Social Security as a bastion of massive fraud and overpayment is completely false. For the record, U.S. auto company CEOs are not psyched and delighted and so excited about President Trump's economic policies, including his tariffs. Take, for example, the CEO of Ford, Jim Farley, who said that Trump's tariff policies would, quote, blow a hole in the U.S. auto industry that, quote, we've never seen. The president flat out lied about U.S. versus European spending to support what used to be our allies in Ukraine. The U.S. has committed about $125 billion to Ukraine's defense. Europe has committed about $259 billion. The president radically misstating the character and quantity of our relative support for what used to be our ally, now appears to be only Europe's ally and no longer ours. For the record, Joe Biden did not close over 100 power plants. There were more utility-sized power plants up and running in the United States when Joe Biden left office than when he achieved office. For the record, there is no EV mandate. For the record, oil and gas production in the United States hit all-time records under President Joe Biden. For the record, even DOGE has never claimed that they have saved hundreds of billions of dollars in savings. The largest items they have claimed to achieve as savings in the U.S. budget have been debunked and they've been taken down, but even they don't falsely claim hundreds of billions of dollars worth of saving. For the record, and this is disgusting, the president made a spectacle out of praising a young man who thus far survived pediatric cancer, as if the president had something to do with that. This was in the midst of him praising DOGE. The DOGE cuts, among other things, have cut off funding for ongoing research into pediatric cancer. For the record, I will note that Donald Trump did admit in his remarks today explicitly that Elon Musk is the head of DOGE. And while that comes as no surprise to anybody who's been following the facts of this matter, that will end up in court because that is directly contrary to what the administration has overtly sworn to a federal judge about the leadership of DOGE. I should also note, and this doesn't have to be for the record, I'll just note it for our own experience tonight, that at that point in the speech, when the president talked about how we will no longer be ruled by unelected bureaucrats, Democrats in the chamber pointed and laughed at Elon Musk. Unelected bureaucrat.
It's unbelievable. Do you know the crazy part about this? Is that every time I look at the Trump situation and the fact that he's the president, and like you can chat GPT. Wait. Now let me let chat GPT tell you. the liar in chief, man. It's crazy how people don't care about the truth when the lie is more entertaining. You know, Trump puts on a spectacle. He knows how to stand in front of the room. He knows how to stand and bang his chest and tell you he can do everything. Trump can do everything. He's the only person that can do everything.
Nobody knows this stuff better than me.
Nobody knows more about taxes than I do and income than I do.
Nobody knows more about construction than I do.
Nobody knows more about campaign finance than I do.
I know more about drones than anybody. Nobody knows much more about technology, this type of technology, certainly, than I do.
Nobody knows more about technology than me.
Nobody in the history of this country has ever known so much about infrastructure as Donald Trump. I know the H-1B. I know the H-2B. Nobody knows it better than me.
I know more about ISIS than the generals do, believe me. I understand things. I comprehend very well, okay? Better than, I think, almost anybody.
And by the way, who knew the other side of the picture better than me? I knew it.
Nobody knows more about environmental impact statements than me. I understand the power of Facebook, maybe better than almost anybody. I know more about renewables than any human being on earth. Nobody knows more about polls than me.
I know more about courts than any human being on earth.
I know more about steelworkers than anybody that's ever run for office.
I know more about golf than Obama knows.
Nobody knows more about banks than I do.
Nobody knows more about trade than me.
Well, obviously, he doesn't know about nuclear weapons. I know more about nuclear weapons than he'll ever know.
I understand the tax laws better than almost anyone.
Who knows more about lawsuits than I do? I'm the king.
I know more about offense and defense than they will ever understand.
Nobody even understands it but me. It's called devaluation.
I understand money better than anybody.
I understand the system better than anybody. Nobody knows more about debt than I do.
You can't do nothing but laugh. This shit is like a joke. We're like a joke to the rest of the world. Like, if you just start reading some of the articles about what the rest of the world is saying, there's nobody that's looking like America is strong. The U.S. is the place to be. We're diminishing our value. And that's a direct, that's a direct reflection of leadership. When people look at your leadership and your leadership looks weak, then you become weak. And unfortunately, America is weakening. We're falling as a superpower. And if you don't see this, cool. If you don't look at the stock market and see that the European stock market is doing way better than us, if you don't look how China's technology is surpassing us, if you don't just look like how we are losing our space on a global scale, because now that it's about America, like, you don't realize that we've become the enemy of everybody. Like, America has become the enemy. We don't even have allies no more. We said fuck Ukraine. The whole Europe, we said fuck them. We've been said fuck the Middle Eastern people. You see what they doing to, the Palestinians, Israel. I mean, what's going on in that situation, that region of the world. Canada, Mexico, where do we have allies at? That is the dumbest thing to do, is isolate yourself from everybody else, because you live inside of this echo chamber and you believe everything is going on. And that's what's going on for Americans, for not just for Americans, because a lot of us who aren't MAGA, who aren't living in this cult fucking mentality that thinks, yes, Trump, everything's doing right. It makes sense for us to put tariffs on with all of our allies. It makes sense for us to say fuck Ukraine and fuck Europe and fuck everybody. It makes sense for us to just say this America first and just lock ourselves in our bubble. We just be on the outside of everybody else building with each other. It makes so much sense. Because it makes sense for Russia to do that dumb shit, right? And you see what they are. You see how they isolate. You see how they have a dictator. You see how most people don't even want to fucking live. You do see what's going on here. But either you do see it or you don't. Either way, it doesn't matter in this happening. So, hey, what do I know? Now, there was one very touching moment. Shout out to the young black kid by the name of DJ Daniels, who has terminally ill brain cancer, and Trump made him an honorary Secret Service person because he loves law enforcement, and Trump did something nice.
Joining us in the gallery tonight is a young man who truly loves our police. His name is DJ Daniel. He is 13 years old, and he has always dreamed of becoming a police officer. But in 2018, DJ was diagnosed with brain cancer. The doctors gave him 5 months at most to live. That was more than 6 years ago. Since that time, DJ and his dad have been on a quest to make his dream come true, and DJ has been sworn in as an honorary law enforcement officer, actually a number of times. The police love him, the police departments love him. And tonight, DJ, we're going to do you the biggest honor of them all. I am asking our new Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, to officially make you an agent of the United States Secret Service.
Now, a broken clock is right at least 2 times a day, right? And Trump knows how to put on a spectacle. He knows how to appeal to the sentiment of black people. He'll give you one good black person, like he did with Marianne. You know, he made her the partners. Like, he knows how to give you 1 or 2 people that he puts there and say, look, I do care about black people. You know, why the rest of us, he says, fuck. He will put these people in your face. So that's what happened with Daniel. Now, there was a lot of backlash because the Democrats didn't stand and clap. You know, and I say to myself, I see people's point of view. I see why, you know, there should have been, people believe that you should put, you know, the disagreements to the side as we celebrate this young boy being celebrated, you know, knowing what he's facing. People say that. But I ask this. Would anybody have asked the Jews to clap for Hitler if he brought a little one Jewish boy on the stage and said, hey, this guy right here was about to pass away, and we gave him the honor, and we gave him a medal, and we made him one of us, and he clapped and everybody clapped? Do you think it would be fair to ask the Jewish people to clap for the one thing that he did while he was pretty much exterminating their people? Do you think that black people and people in the Democratic Party should be clapping as they're losing their jobs, as DEI is under attack, as they're watching their stocks plummet? Do you think that they should ignore the extreme gravity of this time and applaud and celebrate the person who is putting them through hell? Do you think that makes sense? Do you think that their constituents want to see them clapping at any time during the Trump State of the Union? Do you think they want to see that while they know that they're suffering? Right? Why would you think that we supposed to clap for the enemy? Why? I understand he utilized the tactic, and the people and listen, I've clapped for him, right? I clapped for him. I didn't clap for Trump. You know, I felt good for him. You know, understanding what he's going through. He's a young boy. His life is, you know, he's in terminal stages of cancer. He's been fighting for years. They only gave him 5 months, and he's still here years later. So I understand that, and I want to celebrate the young man, and I want us to celebrate him. But I want us to acknowledge the seriousness of the times that we're in. People don't got time to be clapping and shucking and jiving. You know, they don't have time to be shucking and jiving. I believe that the Democrats need to fight harder. I believe that the Democrats are broken down, and it's visible. But do I believe that I understand it? Of course I do. Right? You fought a fight against a tyrant, against somebody who on every element, by every measure of presidency, does not fit. He doesn't have couth. He doesn't have empathy. He lacks basic common sense. He has complete disregard for anybody. He has no respect, and he's a liar. And you lost a presidency to somebody like that. So I get it. You're saying the values that we actually cherish and we thought you represented democracy no longer represent democracy. So they in disarray. They sitting there confused. You would be confused. It's like you a boxer and you practice every day and you got skill and you fighting a boxer and he can't fight. And somehow he just knock you out. And you practice and somehow you like, how the fuck did this thing even hit me? He don't got no technique. Something happened. Either the fixes, and you'll be sitting there trying to figure out how did a nigga that got zero boxing skills beat me in this match. I didn't even see the punch. I don't even know what happened. I was hitting him with everything. Like, there's no way I should have lost to this opponent. So they are reasonably and understandably shaken up. But that doesn't mean that you got to quit. Hakeem Jeffries getting up there saying, oh, well, what are we supposed to do? They own everything. We can't, like, that shows weakness. So I believe they should be fighting back. But I also believe that I understand. Sometimes you got to regroup. You don't just jump right back in the ring. No, you regroup. You look at the tapes. You say, what the fuck did we do wrong? How did we do this? And you come back stronger. I think that they should have different voices should be speaking. Right? Should be the faces of the party. I think the AOCs, the Jasmine Crockett's, even Al Green. Shout out to Al Green. You know, but I'm going to get into Al Green in a minute, but I want to get back to Daniel. You know, so I know there was a lot of people angry, and that's the right wing talking point. They go, oh, they wouldn't even stand for the young man. And we get it. You're going to play into the sympathy, and you're going to pull at the heartstrings, and the average person who doesn't understand the magnitude of the situation is going to say, damn, y'all wouldn't even stand for that. Y'all just evil. No, it's understanding that standing for that means that I co-sign this president. Standing for that normalizes and humanizes this president when I don't believe he's normal at all. When I don't believe in nothing that this president is doing. You want me to stand for something knowing that I don't agree with anything that he represents. So I understand that. You know, and then when I looked further, right, they did an interview with the young man. Pay attention to this interview.
Because I'm a Secret Service now. And if you touch me, you going to juvenile straight out. And I ain't got to ask your parents for nothing. I'm sending you straight to jail.
And once again, shout out to DJ. Wish him the best. It was a beautiful moment. Hope everything goes well. You know, God is the only planner. You know, medicine and the human realm of life does not dictate how long you live. So I believe and hope that it's God's plan that you live way beyond whatever they tell you you're going to live. With that being said, when I'm listening to this video, it sounds like a young boy who's being groomed to be not just law enforcement, but someone who disregards other people as a law enforcement, right? Who has this level of machismo and energy that he's going to do what he wants. I'm going to arrest you and your parents can't do nothing about it. You know, it sounds cute now, but it just is. Just listening to him, it sounded like these people are trying to groom him to be in a direction that I don't know is the best direction. You know, so I hope his father is taking care. I'm sure he's doing a wonderful job. He's done. You know, the kid is amazing. He seems very energetic. You know, despite what he's been through, you don't feel like he feels like he's lost, and that's a beautiful thing. But I want us to pay close attention to DJ because this little video, you know, talking about arresting people and all that, I don't know if that's something that we're gonna be on board with. But once again, shout out to DJ. Now back to Rep. Green. Rep. Green stood up during the State of the Union and told Donald Trump that he was lying. When he had the bravery, 70-year-old man got up and said, you're lying. You do not have a mandate to cut Medicaid. You don't. You know, and he was told to shut up, and he said, no, I'm not going to let you sit there and tell this world and lie to this world and say you have a mandate to cut Medicaid, because I understand how it's going to be detrimental to my constituents, to people in my age group. You know, and he stood up and he was kicked out of chambers and he went out and he said, you know, whatever the consequences come, I'm willing to deal with the consequences. Unfortunately, you know, there were 10 Democrats who voted along with the Republicans to have him censored. Now, I am so confused, but I'm not really confused, right? Because there is justice, there's common sense, and then there's levels of just white supremacy. Like, once again, white supremacy is not everybody. Everybody's not racist. But there are certain people who are not going to go against their race, right? They're not going to go against their race. Now, the crazy part for me is Marjorie Taylor Greene has interrupted more State of the Unions, more presidents speaking than anybody, and never once has she been censored. Never once. It never became. Nobody said let's have this meeting, because you know why? Because most people understand that you have a right to state your grievance, right? Especially if you're an elected official, you have a right when you sit in those meetings and you sit there. You have the right to state that I don't agree with that, and sometimes it doesn't come across right. You see all types of outbursts and arguments in those chambers, but now y'all decide to censor Rep. Green for actually speaking the truth, for telling Donald Trump not to lie to America and say that he was mandated to stop Medicaid. And you 10 Democrats, because these Republicans is voting with each other, they might, one of them might decide, I'm going, but why would you vote to censor this man? This is the humblest, most good-hearted, honest man. Like, what would make you think that made sense? But I'm saying that's about white. That's how they feel. They seen this black man and they said, we're not gonna let this black man get out of his place. We're democratic and we want certain things, but we're not gonna let it be okay for a black man to speak out of turn and talk to a white man like that. So we gotta make sure that we put him in his place and let him know that this is where he needs to be at. And that's what happened. And it was a disgrace. And once again, the Democratic Party should have all walked out with him. Should have walked out with him. Instead, they putting up ping pong paddles, talking about liar and this. We need disruption, right? There should be hell to pay. What the American people are suffering right now, what Donald Trump is implementing right now into our communities, the harm that it's causing us, our representatives should be out there screaming at the top of their lungs. I remember one year I went to a Democratic debate and was kicked out for screaming. Bill de Blasio was sitting on the stage and he was debating. I forgot who he was debating, but he said something. And we knew that he never got rid of Daniel Pantaleo, who choked Eric Garner to death. And he had an opportunity to. So you're not going to run for president while you're allowing a killer cop to stay on the force with no consequences. We're not going to allow you to come on this stage and try to sound pretty. No, fire Pantaleo. You're a liar. Why haven't you fired Pantaleo? We got kicked out. But we screamed at the top of our lungs. We made disruption. We made a scene. We let the people know that we were not happy. And that's what we want our elected officials. That's what we sitting out to Washington to do. Let them know that people are not happy. Don't sit there and peacefully coexist and then decide to quietly walk. No, that's not what they do. These people are staging January 6th insurrections to let you know that they're not happy about what's going on. And y'all can't even yell in the chambers and say liar all at once to show that you wasn't happy to what was going on. I don't know what the strategy is, because I'm confused with the strategy. Yeah, like I said, regroup. But regroup means sometimes you might have to miss some shit. I would rather none of y'all just have been in that room. Just don't be there. Fuck it. What we gonna sit there and listen to this bullshit? I refuse. Shout out to Maxie Waters. She said, I wasn't gonna sit there and listen to that bullshit. That's what she said. Listen.
Everybody.
Well, Tamika, hold on, because I
Hold on a
think somebody
second.
came in to
The
reclaim
queen
her
has
time.
walked. That's it.
That's
it.
what's going on. Congresswoman Waters.
Hello.
Hello. We heard you, so we thought that meant you were reclaiming your time. So you now have the floor. We want to know why you chose not to participate in the State of the Union tonight. Please tell us why.
Thank you so much, Angela. You know me very well. And you know that I was not about to put up with that bullshit that he was going to talk about tonight. You know that I think he is the most deplorable, dishonest, no good man that I've ever encountered in my life. He has insulted us, he's insulted the American people. He's a sexual predator. He's everything absolutely awful that you can describe in a human being. I've never met anything like him before. Angela, you know, you've been out there in Los Angeles. I've worked with gang members, the Crips, the Bloods, everybody. I've never encountered anybody like Trump. Trump is a person without a conscience. He will lie at the drop of a hat, and he knows that you knows that he's lying, but he continues to lie. What he did tonight was, first of all, he continued the lies about all of the Mexicans, all of the people coming from, the countries of, Mexico and Guatemala and everybody. What he talked about was, had you believed that they're all rapists and they're all murderers and they're all this and they're all that, continuing to pump up the lie that he has used as his number one issue to divide and to create hate and to have something that he could point to keep the American people believing that he had to protect them from. So it was pretty awful. And I really did not like the way he used the tragic incidents and the families that were there, who of course appreciated, what they think is their president caring about what happened, to the 12-year-old and to others who were victims. And we all feel sad and bad for them, but he misused them. He misused them. And what he did was he focused on them instead of focusing on the real issues that we're dealing with now and the harm that he's creating for workers by telling them get out of their office by 3 o'clock, by 5 o'clock. You know what that reminds me of? The sundown towns who would tell Black people they had to be out of town by 5 o'clock, before dark. He's still the dishonorable human being that he's always been. It is so sad that we're going through this kind of change right before our very eyes as he and Elon Musk move into all of the agencies and departments of government, shutting them down, firing people, doing everything that they can to basically make sure that this country is ruled by the white billionaires that showed up with him at inauguration time. What he's saying to all of us, we're getting ready to run this country the way that we want to run it. We're getting rid of all these regulations that have protected people in the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. We're getting rid of HUD with all of the money that's going to housing and to the homeless and all of those people in urban areas that don't deserve it. All of those messages for me were continuing messages that he has put forth for a long time, long before this election. But it's not nice to say, but I told you so. When he first ran, I told everybody that he should have been impeached. When we got into it, we didn't do it right. We waited too long. We didn't use the right issues, etc. And unfortunately, we got him back. But let me hear from the other people that you have on the program tonight. Because I could talk about this thing all night.
We have one of your colleagues who has joined you. And she's someone who regularly says she stands on your soldiers. He says, whatever Max says we're doing. That is Jasmine Crockett, who chose to go to the State of the Union tonight, but she also chose to walk out. So she's right here. Jasmine?
Okay.
Hey, yes. Right. Listen, for sure. Max is an OG, just like Al Green. I follow their lead. I thank God for them. I really do, especially in this time. You know, as one of the younger members in the Congress, it is so important to have people that are always going to give us a sobering message about the moment that we're in. And as y'all just heard, she did not hold back. She gonna call that motherfucker what he is at all times. And so, and I'm here for it. And what y'all don't know is we both from St. Louis. Listen, we from the show me state, okay? This is what you get out of St. Louis. But I am so eternally grateful because as I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, I was on the phone calling Max and trying to figure it out. And one of the things that we wanted to do was we wanted to make sure that there was space that was held for us. And if we did not show up, then what they were going to do is just put seat fillers in. And I wanted to make sure that the space that, you know, my ancestors bled and died for, that I occupied that space. But I also got the privilege to walk the hell out of it. And so that's exactly what we did so that he could have those empty seats sitting there and that our messages would be seen. Even if he decided he didn't want to hear us, he was going to fill us in our actions. And so I didn't just want to sit there and not clap, but instead I wanted to make sure that I stood up in defiance and I turned my back on him like he has turned his back on the American people, like he has turned his back on the Constitution, like he has turned his back on laws in this country. That is what I wanted to do. And I wanted the American people to know that while we may not have the numbers just yet, that doesn't mean that we don't have fight left in our bodies. And so I am going to fight him every step of the way until we get what we deserve, because it was my ancestors that built this motherfucker. Okay.
Shout out to both of them. Shout out to Maxine Waters and Jasmine Crockett. You know, because they seem to be, I mean, Maxine is Auntie Maxine. She gonna always speak truth to power, and she gonna stand on it. She gonna deal with whatever come with the consequences. And Jasmine Crockett seems to be from that same lineage. So I'm saluting her, and those are the voices we need. That's the energy we need. Fuck these people because they done said fuck us. Nigga, the gloves is off. Y'all out here trying to have a boxing match with people who are MMA and brawlers. This is a street fight. Y'all having a nice boxing match and you think it's a referee. This is a street fight. No holds barred. They biting, they stabbing, they shoot. They doing whatever it takes to win. And if you ain't gonna fight the same fight, then you got to get out the way and let the warriors get in there. You a boxer. And it's not wrong. You might be one of the best boxers in the world. But this is street fighting. This is street fight. And if y'all ain't ready to get down in the weeds, in the mud, then get the fuck up out the way, man.
Whoopie-dee scoop whoop